boys and girls, this is Mrs. Twisdale ready to teach you lesson 13.5, where you're going to choose measures of center and variability. So your goal today is I can describe a data set using mean, median, mode, range, or mean absolute deviation. So first of all, I want you to think about a data set, and when we talk about measures of center, that's mean, median, and mode. And we talk about variability, that's when we talk about range, interquartile range, okay? So, sometimes we have what are called outliers, which is when we have one number that's way far away from all the rest of them. It's lying on the outside of the rest of the data. Sometimes there's gaps, and sometimes there's clusters where there's lots of numbers really close together. And that can affect the measures of center. It can kind of throw everything off. So, and variability. Some measures of center and variability may describe a particular set of data better than others. So you need to ask yourself which one is best. Now, what I always do is I always think to myself, most of the numbers in my data set are around, and I decide what number. And then I find my mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range, and decide which one's closest to that number of most of the numbers are around what. Okay? So let me tell you a story. Just this weekend, I was working with Mr. Twisdale on his homework online, and we found a spot where it said it had a box plot of all of the students' scores. Now, there was one assignment that we were looking at, and it was you either got credit or you didn't get credit. So you either got 100% or a 0, right? And it said on the box plot that he had gotten 100% because he turned it in. And then the lowest score was a 0, but the mean score, the average score, was 50%. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, how could people have gotten 50%? Well, they didn't. But because so many people didn't turn it in, it kind of threw the data off, so it looked like the mean was 50%, but it really wasn't. Most people got 100% or 0%. And so that is kind of one of those examples where the mean was not the best measure of center, but instead we should have used the mode or maybe the range to tell us what that best measure of center would be. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So let's show you an example. Now Thomas, you okay, baby? Okay. Thomas is writing an article for the school newsletter about a paper airplane competition. In the distance category, Kara's airplane flew 17 feet on one try, 16 feet, 18 feet, 15 feet, and 2 feet. Should Thomas use the mean, median, or mode to best describe Kara's results? And explain your reasoning. So, of course, I can't just do this automatically. I need to relook at this problem. So, taking a look at Kara's airplane, so it's average, how many times she threw it. She threw it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Now 17, 16, 18, and 15, those are all very close together, but one time she threw it 2 feet, so she obviously had a bad flight. Maybe she threw it and it hit the wall or something, I don't know. But most of these numbers are around 17-ish, right? So 2 feet is an outlier. It's going to throw off our data. So let's find the mean first. Now I'm going to let you use a calculator today. So to find the mean, we would add up all of our numbers. 17 plus 16 plus 18 plus 15 plus 2. And divide it by how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to pause this and quickly type it into my calculator to save time. Okay, so I quickly did that math into the calculator. It was 68 divided by 5, and that gave me 13.6. Now, remember, I said that my numbers were close around 17. 13.6 is pretty far away. That outlier is really pulling that score down. So then let's find the median. Remember, the median is when we put all of those numbers in order from least to greatest. So least would be 2, 15, 16, 17, 18, and our middle number would be 16. So that's pretty good. Like that's pretty close. And then our mode, let's switch back to red. Our mode is, are there any numbers that occur more often than others? There's not. There's nothing that repeats, so there's no mode. And let's see, mean, median, or mode. So which one makes the most sense to use? Obviously, we're not going to use the mode because there isn't one. The median was 16. The mean was 13.6. Which one's closest to what we thought most of the numbers are? It'd be the median. So we would say the median because it is the 2-foot outlier. This is what I would do to explain my reasoning. Pulls the mean too low. Does that make sense? 13.6, our mean, was just too low when because of that outlier. Alright, so let's go ahead to the next problem. So this one I want you to look at. It says why these two modes explain why these two modes may be a better description than the mean or the median. So the data set is 2, 2, 2, 2, 7, 7, 7, 7. So would it make sense to find the average? Because if you found the average, you're going to get like 5. That doesn't make sense. The mean wouldn't make sense because none of those numbers are 5. The median would also be somewhere around 5, and the mode would be 2 and 7. And that describes this data very clearly because that's exactly what this data is. Most of the numbers are 2 or 7, so we would use our mode to describe this. Please remember, if you have any questions, you need to pause the video and ask so that you can really understand this concept. Again, if you just think to yourself, what are most of these numbers like? That really helps you get to the right place. Okay, here we have our last example problem. Mr. Tobin is buying a book online. So maybe he's on Amazon trying to find a book. He compares prices of the book at several different sites. So maybe he checked out eBay, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, I don't know other book sites. The table shows his results. So for site 1, let's get this out, the book was $15. Site 2, $35, and so on and so forth. What it's going to ask us to do is make a box plot of the data. Then use the plot to find the range and interquartile range. And then answer the question, which measure better describes the data, and explain your reasoning. So we have a couple of different things to do. Let's start off with our box plot. So remember with the box plot, the first thing I want to do is put these in order and find the median. So I need to take my smallest, which I think is this 5 here. And then let's see. Next would be 15. And then 16. 17. Looks like I have 2 17s. Make sure I get them both in there. 18 and 35. Now once I have that done, I want to find the median. So halfway would be 17. So here's my median. And then I'm going to draw my little box plot here. So 5. Let's go 6, 7, 8, 9. 7. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how to best draw this. Give me just a second. I'm going to draw this out so you can draw it on your own screen. Okay, it took me a second, but I decided to go by 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11, all the way up to 35. So my median, I'm going to mark, and I'm going to get another color here. Let's go purple. My median was at 17, so that's where I draw, and this is just a reminder on box plots, that's where I draw the vertical line. And then I draw my dot on 5, because that's the lowest number, alright? And then on 35 for my highest number. And then remember to make the little square, you need to look at these 3, the lower quartile, and find the middle number, which is 15. So I'm going to draw a line right there. And in the upper quartile, the middle line would be 18. Should be right about there. And I make this into a box because it's a box plot. But remember, here's our little whiskers. So if you take a look, most of the numbers are in those teen numbers, 15, 16, 17, 18. But you have 2 outliers. You have a 5 and a 35. To find the range, we do the highest number minus the lowest number. So 35 minus 5 would give us 30. So what this means is that there are 30 points between our highest and lowest. But when we look at our interquartile range, our IQR, it's going to be 18, which was right here, minus 15, which is 3. So our interquartile range has less of a spread, and so it would be a better problem. Yeah. Alright, so let's go ahead and try this first try it problem. So you don't need to write down the whole problem, you just need to write down the data set and then show your work. Okay. So first of all, I'll read the problem to you. The distance in miles students travel to get to school are 7 miles, 1 mile, 6 miles, 8 miles, 9 miles, and 8 miles. Describe which measurement center best describes the data set and explain your reasoning. Explain why you think that. So I'm going to first look at this data set and I'm going to think to myself, most of the numbers are around blank. Most of them are around what? Think of what number you're aiming for. Okay? And then solve for your mean, median, and mode and choose which one is the best description of most of the numbers. I'm going to let you pause your video now, and I'm not going to solve these. I'm just going to put the answers in, so you need to make sure you solve them on your own because that practice is very important. Go ahead and pause now. Alright, so I decided that most of the numbers were around 7 or 8. And then when I solved my mean, it gave me 6.5. My median was 7.5, and my mode was 8. So for me, I think the best choice would be the median because it matches. I was thinking around 7 or 8, and that's right in the middle. Because it does show, I think the median, because sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Because it is where most of the numbers are. Now you'll notice the mean was so much lower. The reason it was so much lower is because of that 1 mile person pulled that whole thing down lower because 1 is such a low number. Because it's where most of the numbers in the data are. Locate. Okay? And you don't have to write it exactly. That's just my own personal reasoning. Sorry, Felicity is just super bad right now. She's crying. Hopefully you can still hear me. Okay, so I hope you did well on the last try it problem. Here's another one where you get to try the the range and interquartile range. So again, you don't have to write down the whole problem. You just need to make sure you write down the data set and this part over here. Okay? So the problem says the number of different brands of orange juice carried in several stores are 2, 1, 3, 1, 12, 1, 2, 2, and 5. Okay? Make a box plot, and I'm going to tell you right now, I saw some outliers in that data. Make a box plot of the data and find the range and interquartile range and decide which measure better describes the data set and explain your reasoning. So I'm going to pause the video. First of all, I want you to think, is there an outlier that's going to change the data? And then solve this on your own, and I will show you how I solved it. If you need help with this problem, then please call me over and I will help you with it. Okay, so here's what I did when I solved the problem. I first took all of my numbers and put them in order. I found my median, and I marked it right here. And I found my lower quartile, which was the average between 1 and 1, which is just 1. I found my upper quartile, which was the middle of 3 and 5, which gave me 4. Marked it there. And then my lowest was 1, which was right on that line, and then 12, which was that outlier that made the whisker go out really far on this side. I took my highest number 12, my lowest number 1, and found my range. My interquartile range, I took my 4 minus 1, and it gave me 3. So for me, I would say that the interquartile range is the better way to describe this data set because most of the numbers fall within that range. Most of them are down here in this middle part, really, okay? But your outlier throws off your data. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask whoever is monitoring today so that you can get your questions answered. All right, and the last problem. This is a test prep question. So I want you to really think because there's one answer that you can automatically cancel out. So Josh scored 98, 85, 84, 80, 81, and 82 on his math test. Which measures of center best describe Josh's scores? Now think first, most of the numbers are around what? Think about that and then solve for each of these and see which one matches your guess. Well, not your guess, but your decision. Okay, go ahead and answer this one and I'll give you the answer in just a moment. All right, so I said to myself that most of the numbers are, you've got a 98, but mostly he's scoring in the low 80s, around 83 or so. He didn't actually score 83, but he did score really close to it. Now, measures of center are mean, median, and mode. So I know it's not going to be the range just because that's not a measure of center, that's a measure of variability. Now, the mode, are there any that repeat themselves? No. So there's no mode. So we can automatically cancel that out. So now I just need to find the mean and the median. So the median, I'm going to put them in order, and the mean, I'll find the average. So when I found those numbers, it looks like the mean was 85 and the median was 83. 83 was the exact number that I said I was looking for. So the answer is A, the median. So that's all for today's lesson. Really, you're just looking to see what is the best way to describe this data set. If I had to explain it to someone, I would give them, in this sense, the median, not the mean, or whatever the case may be. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, then go ahead and get started on your work. Thanks so much. Have a good day.